Scaling without leadership, truly being present at the right dosage and at the right amount, physically in the practice, serving alongside your team, that's not true leadership. That's leadership that turns into chaos because it simply doesn't work. The dream of stepping out, and especially when you do it too soon, is a freaking trap. Your team doesn't just need your skill, they need your presence. True leadership is stepping up, not out. All right, chiropractors and chiropractic students, welcome to the Family Practice Podcast. You know, the one you've been waiting way too long for, because this podcast will actually stay focused on chiropractic, not only what it takes to get world-class clinical results for kids and families in your community, but also what it takes to build a legendary, incredible family practice that takes care of your family way beyond your dreams. I'm Dr. Tony Ebel, and I'll be joined by Dr. Matt Hill, Dr. Ellie Wright, Jackie Jacobowitz, and incredible guests, chiros, associates, CAs, all these folks making massive impact around the world. We're going to cover everything: pediatrics, perinatal, family practice. This is the podcast you've been waiting for, because moms and dads and families have always needed us. Now they're finally ready for us. I hope you're ready for the Family Practice Podcast. Let's go. All right, Family Practice Podcast peeps, we are going to have the conversation that everybody in chiropractic wants to have, needs to have, and struggles to really figure out. Not only do people struggle massively to get to this, supposed incredible, I'm going to be so happy when I get there state, which is a 7-figure, so yes, $1 million family practice. Real quick, important asterisk for every message that comes from me. When we talk about money, when we talk about collections, when we talk about stats, even the ones that have the dollar signs attached to them, which I'm going to be pretty heavy into today to really set the context for what it takes to make massive impact in your community. I see every stat as a translation of impact, right? And so we always and only teach from what we call the ROII, system and scale, return on impact. Sets up your income for you, the clinic owner, if you're listening in that way, and all associate doctors, team members, CAs, and everyone else tied to it. So we're coming from that context always. But what we're going to talk about with this one is, yes, the truth, how hard it is to get there. But what we're really actually going to talk about is the conversation no one is willing to have at that stage, which is how hard it is to sustain being there, to find actual freedom, enjoyment, fulfillment, and not get stuck in chaos and overwhelm and emotional burnout as the owner and founder of a $1 million practice. And just in case getting to all of those attributes wasn't hard enough, we're actually going to talk about what it takes to continue to grow beyond a $1 million practice, because for some reason, it seems like that's the pinnacle that the business landscape in chiropractic says, let's get you to $1 million. Let's scale you out of practice. Let's get you a soft wave machine. Let's get you some decompression. Let's get you some Airbnbs. Let's get you a coaching company. Let's get you selling courses. Let's get you into real estate. What is up with that? In the real business environment, outside of chiropractic, a $1 million company is not something to be taken lightly. That is an incredible accomplishment. Most businesses, period, of all industries, of all kinds, don't quite get there. Again, if you've heard the stats, most businesses don't make it out of their first year, and then an even smaller percentage make it to 5 years, then an even smaller percentage make it to 10 years, and then an even smaller percentage make it to $1 million. But you know what? There's a lot of businesses. So let's look at it through a different lens. There is a lot of businesses in industries everywhere, and let's isolate it actually to healthcare, where $1 million is not the pinnacle. It's just a launch pad into something much more impactful. And so if we really want to chase down the pediatrician and modern medicine and beat them in the marketplace so that kids and families can finally really fully be healthy, well, then we got to kick their ASS in business as well. We've got to learn how to grow and scale massive companies. And again, I know that some chiropractic companies they have multiple locations, but go out there, open the hood, how many of them are back pain, neck pain, musculoskeletal, decompression, rehab, and insurance dependent? So as always in the Family Practice Podcast, we are looking for this sliver of opportunity that a lot of people in chiropractic do not believe exists. And we're talking about scaling, yes, to $1 million practice, but we are also talking about scaling beyond it. And so to set the frame one more time, this is our unique monthly episode where it's just me hammering away for 10, 15, 20 minutes, TED Talk style, straight from the heart, or what we call straight from the trenches. These are the thoughts as the Chief Vision Officer, owner, operator, and founder of the world's largest pediatric perinatal and family practice. These are the thoughts. These are the strategies. These are the things we are working on right now in practice. And so this episode, we launch them every first Friday. These are going to be chock full of gold, not like, oh, let me pull up my notes from what I was thinking about and doing in 2009. No, this is what I am obsessively focused on right now. So if you are literally in that seat, growing and scaling your family practice, or you are in a leadership seat as an associate doctor, as a care advocate, as a chief marketing officer, as a operations and systems guru within the practice, if you are in the seat, and you all do, that has something to do with growing and scaling a family practice right now, you need to learn how to truly scale to 7 figures and beyond. And then there's going to be a big part of this episode that is very specifically, because that's my seat, that's where I sit on the org chart and the function chart, is the Chief Vision Officer and the owner, along with my wife, who is the Chief Integrator. And we're going to talk about how to truly scale to 7 figures and beyond, keep growing, can't say that enough, without your practice truly depending on you. We are not talking about stepping out of practice. So if you are entirely burnt out right now, you no longer really, and only you can answer this, you no longer truly, obsessively, relentlessly love serving through chiropractic, and you are more stoked about side hustles and real estate and crypto, go to a different podcast. I don't know how to say this. This is a clear message for someone who is clear on their purpose, and you want to, and by the way, this doesn't mean that I am not, engaged in real estate. We own 3 commercial buildings, we own 2 commercial buildings, about to buy a third. We are heavily invested in things that grow our wealth and grow our income. I know those things. That's not what you need to learn from me. I'm not a real estate expert. I'm not a crypto expert. I am a scaling and growing family practice expert to take over for the pediatrician and reverse the freaking trend of chronic illness that is ruining our families. And so if you're on mission entirely with me and you want to stay in a seat of service and impact through chiropractic, and you know that you need to change things up and you can't be tied to the tables and you can't be doing everything on your own and you can't make every decision, and you know that you struggle with delegation, and you know that you have a team but they're not doing much for you and they're causing you more stress than doing more good, that's your fault, which is also meaning it's your opportunity. So this is an opportunity for you to learn how to scale your practice by stepping up into true visionary servant leadership. And you absolutely positively through this episode will get more freedom, more joy, more fulfillment in that seat than ever before. We will absolutely decrease your stress and your chaos with this episode. But I just need to be clear right out of the gates. It is not my intent to take you out of practice. I have never once in my career wanted that. And I literally, in my prayers to God, I ask him to keep me completely obsessed and in relentless pursuit of growing and scaling our brick and mortar practice. And yes, I have PX, the largest pediatric chiropractic, high level clinical practice growth, organization. Yes, we have PX Docs in the Experience Miracles podcast where we take this work to the world. So I have 2 other full send companies and missions that are very much on my schedule each week, but I very much am so dialed in with this lesson that I'm about to teach you that I'm still in practice 2 days a week, connecting my heart, my soul, my hands to patients, and I freaking love it. What do I love most? That. What do I love in addition? Everything else, because it leads to more of that. Let's go. We're going to teach this one through the 3 stages of practice. I need you to see real quick, at least for a couple of minutes, what stage 1, what I'm going to kind of nickname the grind it out, get to 0 to 300, 350 a week. Maybe for you, all by yourself, you can get to 400 or 500 a week. I haven't met too many chiropractors who are too happy and not burnt out if they're trying to adjust 500, 600. I went after the volume. I got up to 550, 600 myself. Sweet spot for me, 300, 350 for sure. And I've thought about this 1,000 times over, and that is a awesome sweet spot to be. And so we're going to talk about stage 1, grind it out, get after it, get there. Then we're going to talk about stage 2, so 300, 350 a week in an all-cash family practice. I don't know the stats of decompression and building Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'm sure you could have a much higher OVA if you're selling, everything to everyone every time they're in there. And so you wouldn't need to have as many visits to get to $500,000 practice. But stage 1 is really about 0 to 300 a week. We're going to get to $40,000, $45,000, $50,000 collected a month. So we're talking $500K or so a year. Stage 2, just to review them kind of high level really quick. Stage 2 is where you finally really need to figure out how to actually delegate, how to really get your systems and your team and your procedures dialed in and being much more efficient. But even if they're kind of half ASS, you can actually still grow beyond there. A couple of CAs, maybe 1 or 2 associates, and you can get up to 550, 600, maybe for you again at 6, 7, 800 a week. And that gets you around $1 million practice if you're all cash. So if your OVA is in the healthy spot of at least $35 for that, and then you need to get, you really have a high level practice, you're at $40, $45. And this is true family practice stats. I know people are going to hear that and they're like, oh, that's not even enough. Well, that when you actually serve families, it is. I'll break down stats on a different episode, but I know the math inside and out of a very profitable, high volume family practice inside and out, and you need to make it affordable. You need to make it affordable so a family of 5 or 6 can get adjusted every single week. Your OVA needs to fit in that range, but also if they do that for 15, 16, 17, I have literally dozens of families who have been getting adjusted every single week on a monthly auto debit for 18 years in our practice. And so you don't, in this model, which is retention based as well, because it's life transformation based, our PVA is north of 150 nowadays. And that's with a lot of new patients. So I know I'm just spitting out a lot of stats for these stages, but you need to know them so that, because chiropractors like to, there's a quote from Mark Twain, there's 3 types of lies, damn lies, and statistics. And what a lot of chiropractors will do is they'll immediately dismiss a model of success in this all cash peds, perinatal, and family practice because they don't believe in themselves to be able to go all cash. They don't believe in themselves to be able to take their pediatric and perinatal percentage above 50%. And if you're not truly above 50% of kids getting adjusted, you're not actually truly a family practice, because the average family has 2 or more kids. So you're family-ish if you're at 25%, you're family-ish if you're at 35%. But if we just wanted to give family practice an actual definition, you would need to be at 55, 60% of your weekly volume and just volume period being kids under the age of 18 to actually truly be a family practice. That's not me pulling that out of my posterior sacrum. That's just math, okay? And so we're talking about math through these stages, and then we're going to talk about business, and then we're going to talk about leadership, and then we're going to talk about freedom and how to scale up past the second stage where you really need to build your team and systems fully out, really need to step into leadership, and stage 3 is 1,000 million %, there's some math for you, about really stepping up into at least level 3 leadership and really getting into level 4 leadership, which on this podcast, I will talk about the 5 levels of leadership again and again and again, because what's missing, write this one down, what's missing in chiropractic is our leaders don't really know how to lead. The people that you're seeing on stages and getting interviewed and speaking at all the events and getting interviewed on everybody's podcast, if you open the hood to their practice and you were to go talk to their associates and their CAs and look at their stats, you would find out that most of them tapped out, burnt out, and got stuck at stage 2. And if they got into stage 3, they're freaking white knuckling it. They're struggling. Their teams are turning over all the time. They're trying to be in stage 3 of practice growth, $1 million and beyond, with level 2 or worse. Level 1, I still do it all myself, leadership. And so what's missing in chiropractic is real, true leaders. And what sucks, and I'm being real clear right here, aren't I? What sucks is if we call them, if we label them, and we title them as this generation's leaders of chiropractic, and they either didn't even get to $1 million practice, or B, when they got there, they got stuck, they stalled out, and they started a bunch of side hustles instead. well, then is that who we, who are obsessed with growing brick and mortar family practices, really need to be learning from? And I totally, entirely get the trap of burning out at $1 million practice and beyond. And I totally, entirely get the trap and the distraction of getting connected into side hustles instead of staying the course and growing and scaling your practice past stage 3. Because what I'm trying to tell you with this, Dr. Tony from the trenches, real truth, this is what's in my head and in my heart and what I'm working on right now, every day in practice. This, by far, by a lot, is the hardest stage of practice to own a practice. So again, I get why people stall out, burn out. I get why people sell out, and I get why people don't make it past this. But I am fully, entirely, obsessively committed to getting past it myself. And we, in a lot of ways, we already are. We're about to blow past $2 million this year and really continue to scale. And I do have 2 other missions and companies as well. So if you're there and you only have one, let's say God doesn't call you to mentor, teach, start a certification and clinical program and everything else for other pediatric chiropractors, or start a podcast to try and take the message to the world, well, then the job I'm about to teach you to do, and I only have about 5 to 8 minutes left, so I better get to it. It'll be easier for you because you'll have even more time on your schedule than I do for that. And that's not other than anything, just putting this into the spot it needs to be. So let's fly through the first 2 stages so we can spend the last part of this podcast really teaching you what it takes, not just to get, this podcast isn't about what it takes to get to stage 3. You'll get some of that. It's really about, holy heck, what happens when I get there and how do I handle that? And if you're not even there yet, the fact that you have this podcast and you get to know the truth about stage 3 in $1 million practice and what it takes, write this stuff freaking down. Save this podcast to come back to at that time, because you'll see all of these subluxations and obstacles that most people run smack into and never get past and never get over. You'll see them coming more clearly, more easily, more early as a result of this podcast episode. So when you get there, I expect you to be able to step up into leadership and continue to grow and scale into multiple 7-figure practices. Maybe it's multiple locations through the help of this podcast massively. We will talk about it not only in this episode, but if that's your future, if you don't want to get into things not called chiropractic, and if you want to grow and scale your income and your freedom, but most importantly, your impact through chiropractic and chiropractic alone, this is alone the podcast you need to be tuned into every single episode. Stage 1, grind it out. Honestly, you can. Okay. I know a lot of people, and for the most part, looking back, kind of how I did it, right? Just get after it. You're in charge of marketing, adjusting, managing finances, hiring, firing, training. You maybe have a part-time CA. Maybe your spouse is helping out. Maybe you have 2, 3 CAs. By the time you get to 200, 300 a week, goodness gracious, I hope you have at least 2 CAs by the time you're trying to see 250, 350 a week. And this stage, by all means, rewards work ethic, hustle, grind it out, passion, obsession. We're going to freaking make this work mentality. Now, here's the trap that'll get you stuck there and struggling to get to the next stage, believing that what got you there to 300, 350, maybe even 500 a week is what will get you to the next level. There is a diminishing return on grind it out, on hustle, and getting after it in that way. Now, what stinks is if you don't separate these two, if you continue to only grind it out and hustle, and you think what got you to 300 a week is going to get you to 600 a week, what got you to 500,000 a year collected is going to get you to $1 million practice, what'll happen is leveraging too much hustle, too much grind will cost you your passion. It'll cost you your love for chiropractic, and you don't even mean to. And it's not even kind of real, because what I know about chiropractors is if we could just unburden them from the business, from so many other things that show up on our plate, if we could just unburden you from the business, you would never lose your passion, your enthusiasm, your obsession for delivering chiropractic at a high level to pregnant moms, to babies, and full families in your community through the principle of chiropractic, the philosophy of chiropractic, and nervous system focused subluxation annihilation chiropractic. I promise you, you wouldn't lose your passion. You wouldn't lose your heart and your soul if business could get easier as you go along. Now, right in that statement, I'm telling the truth of our goal, but I also would need to tell you the truth. The business is about to get harder in stage 2 and stage 3. So what does that mean? What are we really saying with this episode right here? You need to get better at it, because it can get easier the better you get, the stronger you get, the more developed your skills in business get. So stage 1 is all about grit, but stage 2 is all about growth through others. Ooh. Did you just start to freak out a little bit? Are you like, yeah, but? Oh, those famous words that should never start a sentence. The old yeah, but. What's coming after that is a massive excuse, right? I teach the Ebel kids know this. They are not allowed to start a sentence with well, but, and the worst one is yeah, but, where they pretend to agree, but then the word but says, I have an excuse. I do not agree. I shall not make it forward. Eradicate those from your language, because what you might have just said is, yeah, but isn't it easier just doing it all myself? Isn't hiring, finding others, interviewing others, hiring others, training others, leading others, isn't that the hardest thing I'll ever do in business? Yes. It's also the best, most impactful, let me go in order. It's the best thing ever, because being able to grow through others, humans, team members, associate doctors and CAs, not just systems and procedures. Stage 2 is not, write this down, please. People are lied to all the time in chiropractic. It's not about your systems and procedures. It's about your people. From stage 1 to get to 300 a week, your systems, procedures, your schedule, your finances, they have to be at least decent, okay? They have to be at least like a B plus or a B, okay? Now, is there a big range between B plus systems and procedures and ridiculously efficient kick ASS A plus systems and procedures? Yes, we love those. We are a systems and procedures obsessed organization, but there's only so much scale past these stages by with which systems and procedures can grow your practice. There is a huge margin, continued, limitless, actually endless margin of growth through others, through people. So a strong, all-in, gritty, highly talented CA team, at least 1 to 2 associate doctors who are all in, perfectly in their position. Because guys, about 60, 70, 80% of chiropractors out there should not be owning clinics. They're not in love with risk and craziness and everything else. They do want to shut it down when they get in their car and go home. They do want to shut it down when they're on vacation. And so we've lied to most of us by saying if you're not an owner, you're not successful. This stage right here, stage 2, is more dependent upon those people stepping perfectly into their lane and their calling and serving at a high level in the seat of a, and we can fix this. We can absolutely fix this within chiropractic. Again, other professions have figured this out. Not everybody has to be a freaking crazy, chaotic entrepreneur and chiropractor in order to technically be successful financially, freedom, everything else. Our associate doctors are sitting in absolute green zone, amazing seats. So stage 2, a couple hundred a week, 500, 600 a week, getting at that $1 million of collections. Your OVA should be going up in stage 2 because you're getting better. You're adding, you should be increasing your fees, decreasing your discounts, not giving so many deals. You definitely can increase your value exchange in stage 2 because you're proven, you're established, you're getting people better. And so you want to hire for energy, empathy, and execution. But now you have to shift from the do-it-all-yourself, grind-it-out person to the architect, to the visionary, to the strategist, to the leader. So now at least, and here's where I'm going to get really granular with this one. When you shift from stage 1 to stage 2, at freaking minimum, you need to take 1 day off from serving patients, and you need to dedicate that day not to paddleboarding, not to pickleball, not to gardening, not to side hustles and building your personal brand to sell Airbnbs for a whopping profit of $300 a year and more stress, cleaning and sweeping that thing when people come in there and party. So not that. You need to switch to having a CVO, CEO, CMO, COO day. Now, whoa, did you just get 4 jobs? No, you didn't get 4 jobs when you went into stage 2. You already had them, okay? You're just getting the freedom in your schedule to do them better and do them bigger. The owner of the practice is the chief visionary officer, the chief, right? I was going to say enforcement because that's what we joke. Christina is it's execution officer, but chief executive officer. And for the most part, still at this stage, most of you will hang on only for this stage. You can absolutely start getting help. You should be rocking PX Plus and have a lot of your marketing done for you. If you don't know about PX Plus and you want to get freedom from marketing, send me a DM and be like, what did you say on the podcast about PX Plus? It's content and digital marketing done by the best marketers, us, for you, for your practice. And we train your CA to do it. It's a glorious, glorious, glorious thing that you really need to know about. Anyways, chief marketing officer job, and then COO would be operations and systems. Now, when you get into stage 2, you need CAs at the front desk, you need back office CAs, you need scan tech CAs and x-ray CAs, you need financial CAs who do all the bookkeeping and all the finances. You need to have a CPA that does everything for you and does all the bill pay. You need to have associates that do a lot more of the adjusting and the patient care and communication for you than you were doing before. Because again, you're going to take at least a day, if not a day and a half off, and you're going to shift your schedule on that day to not do nothing and not get out of practice, but step up into that visionary servant leadership, building strategy, overseeing, leading the team, and leading the systems. And so you start to transition into delegation. And here's why most people get trapped in stage 2. Delegation isn't the hard part. Letting people giving your team enough training and hiring high level, let me go in order. Hiring high level enough people, training them well enough on the expectations, the roles, responsibilities, and then training them on how you make decisions. Most people freak out, not because they're afraid of hiring and paying other people to help them do things, but you're still holding on to all the power. You are making all the decisions. So your burnout and your fatigue and your exhaustion in stage 2 is because you haven't gotten strong enough, high enough associates and CAs, and you haven't elevated yourself in leadership enough to trust them to make decisions. So every time there's a fire, guess who jumps back in 9 o'clock at night or on the weekend to fix it? You do. So if you are in stage 2 and you only have half-built systems, you have full freaking on throttle stress. And stage 2, even if you take that day off, if you don't know how to really step into leadership, because delegation and leadership are two different things. Yes, leadership, when you really have it, it encompasses the skill of helping other people make decisions and get things done, not just get things done, but make decisions too. But stage 2 can actually be more stressful than stage 1. And so the transition into stage 3 isn't about more hustle. It's about truly becoming a leader of leaders. So a level 3 and especially a level 4 leader, and this is so within PX, within the membership, we have a higher level of membership called our brick builders, aptly named, because just like on this podcast, we're not looking to these are successful chiropractors. All of them are at $500,000. A lot of them are at $1 million and beyond. And so they're looking to continue to grow and scale their brick and mortar practice. They're not looking to step out of practice. So they're aligned like us in this conversation, but they're looking to develop their associates into leaders. They're looking to develop their CAs into management and leadership. They're looking to build a culture and a company and a structure that allows them more freedom, more fulfillment, more joy, more time to be entirely present with their family and full of energy when they are, more time to step into the visionary role, more time to step into the strategy building and the big picture. Let's take this practice to 10 million at 10 locations if that's what their heart, their dream, their desires. So Brick Builders is about that. And this is what we are teaching 24/7 in there, which is stage 3 is all about level 3 and then really level 4 leadership, which is developing leaders. There is a vast difference for you and your team members between being a GSDer, which is someone who can get a lot done, has a strong work ethic, and will produce. There's this big, significant difference between GSDers and leaders, okay? Leaders actually do less of the doing, but they do all of the leading. And there is such a different skill set. And so in stage 3, what I have found for myself and those who truly want to step into level 3 leadership, level 4 leadership, developing leaders, and therefore by doing so, bring their entire team and their entire practice and their entire organization up with them so that it's not just healthy and awesome and gives tons of freedom at that stage, but it continues to grow. Now that is the magical unicorn that I have met very few chiropractors, and I have a few minutes till talking about this stage 3 of practice, which is $1 million and beyond. And I want to give you some stats, and I want to give you some schedule, and I want to give you, I'm going to stay high level, but I'm going to get a little bit down more to 10,000 square feet and say, what does that look like? So you can have that picture and move towards this and know that if that's what you want to continue to stay in the business of chiropractic, not get distracted and out to another one, and then grow and scale, but not be buried, not be burnt out, not be overwhelmed by it. What you do is you shift your ideal week to spend a third of your time literally in vision and strategy. That's called thinking. That's the freedom to not be in the office, to not be on the tables, to not be doing workshops or screenings or coffee chats or lunch and learns in marketing. You are spending a third of your week literally thinking, whiteboarding, overseeing things, thinking big, leading big. A third of your week then needs to be directly in leadership. You're pouring into your team through meetings. You're building culture. You're having communication not only with your whole team, but most importantly with your key team leaders. So you're spending a third of your week literally developing leaders. And then I want to close down with this one because I would totally take you off path if I didn't tell you the truth about this last third of your week and how mother freaking essential it is to stay on this. A third of your week still needs to be connected to patients. That is the purpose of your practice. That is the product of your practice. I have met hundreds of high-level, amazing $1 million chiropractic practice owners who, when they got to stage, I have met hundreds of really high level, incredibly skilled and talented. They made it to $1 million practice chiropractic clinic owners. And what the vast majority of those hundreds I've met tried to do looked right on paper, and that's what every other coach and mentor who got to this stage, probably other than me for the most part, would have told them to do. And they tried to and did step all the way out of practice. They scaled down to no shifts, no patient care, and they only wanted to sit in the CEO, CVO chair. I am just going to all day, every week, I'm going to look over the stat sheets. I'm going to look over our org charts. I'm going to look over our marketing plans. Don't worry, guys, you won't see me in the clinic, but I'll be back here in my big glass corner office with a view, or I'll be in Bali doing this from my laptop on the beach, and I'll lead from there. No one wants an absent leader. No one requires their leader to be right next to them, grinding it out in the trenches every single day either. Do not throw either baby out with either bucket of bathwater. Scaling without leadership, truly being present at the right dosage and at the right amount, physically in the practice, serving alongside your team. That's not true leadership. That's leadership that turns into chaos because it simply doesn't work. The dream of stepping out, and especially when you do it too soon, is a freaking trap. Your team doesn't just need your skill, they need your presence. True leadership is stepping up, not out. And so what I've seen absolutely destroy practices where they get to $1 million and then they literally boomerang back to about 500, 600, 700, 800,000. And I see all of these different clinic owners, they will always make an excuse and be like, I didn't really want it anyways. I'm much more interested in going over here. I know them. I love them. I've been at dinners with them. I've been able to really, and I'm one of them, right? Who ran into this stress and hit my head against this again and again. I, for a very short season, bought the BS that I should try. No, I didn't. I was around it. I freaking never wanted all the way out of practice. I can never speak. I don't know the future. I'm not God. But I can only imagine, you should see my team, the amount I fight for my 2 days a week to stay connected to patients. I just yesterday, which is why I'm literally recording this one today, I was having a tough week when it comes to my job as a visionary and practice owner, right? We're growing, we're scaling, we're buying another building, we're considering another location, we're hiring massive leaders who are getting, in the best of ways, because they deserve to be paid more than ever before. Things are harder in my leadership and ownership seat than ever. So my shift yesterday, serving patients, was the freaking best. I was stressed about the business going into my shift to serve patients. I left that shift far less stressed about the business because I was directly connected to its purpose. I hope you made it to the end of this podcast, because my prayer, my plan, especially if you're a part of PX and I get to be your mentor, I get to be your guide, I get to be your coach, whatever you want to call me, I get to be your leader, your chief hope dealer, and your strategist to get here. I'm going to be more dialed in with you when you get to stage 3 to teach you it's a third of your time on vision and strategy. It's a third on developing leaders and building culture. And you need to hang on big time to a third of your week still connecting to patients. Do I adjust 300 a week anymore? No. I only see intensive patients. I do a lot of communication, connection, day 1 consult, day 2. That's where a lot of my shifts are really for, because that's where I'm most dipped. That's where I'm most all in, is the communication, the connection, the complex cases and adjusting them. So I don't have any shifts anymore that are the family wellness shifts where I'm adjusting 80 to 100 or more per day like I used to, because the thing that fuels me the most and serves the practice the most with my 2 days and 2 shifts per week is to take on those tough cases. But I'd be remiss, and of course I went longer with this In the Trenches episode than I probably wanted to. I have seen the majority of clinic owners who get to $1 million completely stall out from growth and never make it beyond that, never make it to 2 million, 3 million, 5 million, 10 million, because they stepped entirely out. And I wish I had a little more time to talk about it. We really dig into it at our seminars and our masterminds with PX, because it's a trap that sounds so good. Oh, let me get out of practice. That's not what you're in this for. You are in it to serve, and serving is going to have to change form. Serving more patients means you need to serve less of them per week, because you've got to step into that vision and strategy with a third of it. You've got to step into building leaders, building culture, and building your team with a third of it. But if you step entirely out of it, I'll be honest, I don't know one single chiropractor who within a matter of a year at most didn't get pulled back in, because when I'm just telling you the truth at the end of this one. I know a lot of stories. The names are literally popping off in my head of people that I know, and you would recognize their names too, who they tried to step entirely out of practice. And within a year, those that maybe really hoofed it out made it 2 years. And guess what? Who's back in there on Monday? Who's back in there on Tuesday? Who's back in there on Wednesday? So what if we just built it knowing that that's an important, essential variable and element of leadership, to still be present and still be directly connected to the purpose and serving patients, not 80 hours a week, not 60 hours a week, not 40 hours a week, probably not even 20 hours a week, but maybe 8, right? And those 8 are the most essential, so that you know, because you're still in it alongside your team, you know what they need. You know what the practice needs. You know what the systems need. You get too far away from it, your decisions go to crap. Your understanding goes to crap. Your empathy goes to crap. Stay connected to it, not buried by it. Stay connected to it. That's my leadership lesson. That's my continued practice, growth, and scaling lesson from someone who is still right in it, growing a brick and mortar practice, scaling it like 18 years in, acting like we still got startup energy, while at the same time being obsessed. I got 3 teenagers and a 10-year-old. I've got more freedom and more fulfillment and more joy in my seat than ever before. You can have it all. This podcast right here really mapped out the stages and the blueprint and the stats and the reality and the schedule of what it takes to get there. I suggest you listen to this one a few times over, because it's entirely possible, but there's a very specific path and blueprint that will get you there. There's a very specific understanding of what does and what doesn't. And I just was so stoked to make this one, because I haven't heard this very clear, very truthful, all about stage 3 conversation anywhere else in chiropractic. Not in coaching groups, management groups, seminars that even have scaling in the name. This is the truth I know that many of you needed to hear, because you're there right now. And this is the truth that many of you are gunning for and going for. So save this episode, save this truth, save this strategy for when you get there, so that you don't make the same mistakes everybody else does. Hey, Dr. Tony here, and I wanted to say thank you for listening to the Family Practice Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a thing. Also, if you're looking for more content from us, you can absolutely subscribe to our newsletter, watch exclusive episodes on YouTube, and dive deep into the articles and blogs on our website. All of this is linked in today's show notes. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.